Welcome to episode 5 of the Positive Impact Podcast, where game recognizes game. I am your host, Terrell Dozier, and today I got two special guests in the building today that I'm really excited about and to dive in with. I have Timothy Fields and I have Mr. Shereem Herndon-Brown, the authors of The Black Family's Guide to College Admissions. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to have this conversation with you.
I appreciate it. So I gotta, before we get into what we need to get into, I always gotta start at the genesis of everything. So I want each of you to give me a little bit of your background and where you came up at, how you started off, how you started running, and how you started hooping. I need to know Tim the man and Shereem the man first before we dive into everything else.
So I'll get us started. Timothy Fields. I'm originally from Arlington, Texas. If you don't know, it's a suburb right outside of Dallas, Texas. Born and raised there, and then went to Atlanta to Morehouse College. That was in 1994. Outkast released their first album, Southern Playalistic Cadillac Funky Music, and I in players ball, and I said I want to be an ATL. I was fortunate enough to get a track and cross-country scholarship to Morehouse College. Spent 4 of the best years of my life in Atlanta, saw the Olympics, saw Freaknik, saw Atlanta continue to grow to be one of the great international city it is now and will continue to grow into. And then I went to Massachusetts for 2 years. I got my master's in higher education administration from UMass Amherst. And then I tell the story in 2000, it snowed. And I said, it's time to get back down south. And so, I got back down to Atlanta. And so since then, the better part of the last 25 years, I spent in various parts of higher education. I worked with foster care programs, worked with TRIO programs, worked with, 2-year college counseling, worked in athletics, worked in residential life. But most of my time has been spent in enrollment management, college admission, and for the past about 18 years, I've been at Emory University. So that's kind of the professional. But I am a father. I am a husband. I am a avid runner. I enjoy a good reposado tequila. And if we want to talk about hip hop, Scarface is in my top 5. So what I'm saying, that's who I am in a nutshell. And, I'll turn it over to my partner in crime, Shereem Herndon-Brown, who will give you an impressive resume, not as impressive as mine, but he'll give you one.
Okay. All right.
So, I normally don't have to say much. I just let my presence stand alone and say, this is who I am. But since I'm going to honor you with my quick bio, Shereem Herndon-Brown used to be Shereem Brown, but then I got married, took my wife's name, so I became Herndon-Brown. Born in 1974 in Brooklyn, New York. Lived in Brooklyn, born and bred, Bed-Stuy during the 80s. Yes, everything, whether it was Jay, Big, boot camp, click, whatever they was rhyming about, I was probably, if not living it, because I'm not going to lie, you said I was out on the corners, but I was watching it, that's for sure. Born and bred in Brooklyn, went to Brooklyn Friends School, was a private school in downtown Brooklyn for a long time. Then went to boarding school. Went to boarding school in Pennsylvania, where I finished off 10th, 11th, and 12th grade before I headed off to college at Wesleyan University. Pledged as my most glorious fraternity, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated at Wesleyan. Got a graduate degree in English. I was a double major in English and African American Studies at Wesleyan. Went to Middlebury College for a master's. And I think in the back of my mind, me becoming an educator, I always said that people who became teachers were suckers. I mean, they really couldn't find a real job. I remember saying that. But I am not surprised that I kind of fell into education, given the fact that I really do like having positive impacts on kids, given the fact I love the calendar, like, June, July, and August, I am free as a bird. So I like vacation. So bottom line is that me falling into education, I'm not surprised at, but I also know I like to make money. And I had a mentor very early on in my life say, if you're going to be in education, want to make money, I'd gotten into college counseling. Well, here we go. So the thought was, because people will pay for their kid to go to college and kind of help them navigate that process. So it made sense. Was a college counselor at a few schools, worked at Georgetown University for a year in admissions, quickly learned that I prefer to work with kids versus sell a school to somebody, and did that for several years in different capacities, different schools, and then started my own business about 16 years ago, 2006, almost 17 years. Wow. Doing independent college counseling. Started initially as a necessity, as I was resigned from my job as a college counselor for a variety of reasons, and then kind of kept going and not really sure if this is what I was going to be in forever, but I'm enjoying the ride 300 out of the 365 days of the year. So that is me in a nutshell. Husband, father of three girls, one boy, a dog, and we live in right outside of DC now in Germantown, Maryland.
Beautiful, beautiful. I appreciate it. So I guess for me, and the different areas that you guys work in. So Tim, you being
like I do I have to mention the hip hop thing too?
yeah, like
having,
your top five.
I mean, I don't want to belabor the point. Scarface ain't in it, and me and Brad is good. I mean, I like Brad, but
you can't tell me who's in mine. You know what I'm saying? You can put yours, and you can throw out Biggie, who had one good album. I mean, you could do that if you
didn't
want.
say that.
Now Biggie had both of Biggie's albums was dope. Now,
all right.
Well,
who you
three of
throwing
them
out there?
I love Scarface though. I love Scarface.
You know.
I love Scarface though, for real. I spent some time down south and got into Ghetto Boys and stuff like that. I like some Scarface. I love.
I roll with Cass. Me and Tim connected over Outkast. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah.
You know, and it's too easy to just say Jay and Nas and all that. You know, so I'll say Kane, and I'll say Kane. I'll just go with Kane as number one. With top five.
Okay, I'm a Rock M fan myself.
There you go.
You know what I mean? I'm from LI, so I roll with Rock M.
There we go.
So the two,
and Eric and Parrish.
Yeah, EPMD for sure. So the different areas that you guys are in, Shereem, you have the independent counseling, and Tim, you said you have been at Emory for the last 18 years. So I'd like to start off, especially as a up and coming guidance counselor in this field, and I like to hear from both perspectives of Tim on the college level. Explain to the audience, and I know different schools are different, but what do you think are some of the things that you can share with families about the college admission process?
Yeah, I think one of the first things as you start thinking about the college admission process is just understand the overall landscape. There are 4,000 college universities throughout the country. 2,000 of those offer bachelor's degrees. The other 2,000 are going to be trade schools, community college. So there's a lot of different college and universities. And then, schools that receive the most attention in college admission, depending upon where you're looking at, are going to be probably the top 100 schools, a lot of those being Ivy League, Ivy type institutions that have, lower admit rates that, you see on ESPN, you see in U.S. News and World Report. Those get a lot of attention. But the reality is most college universities throughout this country accept most of their students. And so the place that I've been in for the better part of my career has been Emory University, a selective school. When I first got there, the admit rate was probably 30%, and it's down to 10%. So this is going to be a place where, most students don't get in. And so, as you begin to think about this process, it's like, where do I fit in? What am I looking to do? How selective a school do I want to apply to? And then once you kind of establish that, then you can begin to looking at various colleges, universities. But I think the first thing is to look beyond the name and say, you can see, we're about to start March Madness, and there are going to be a lot of schools that are going to pop up. And you'll see the name. There might be a Cinderella school that makes a run, and you'll be like, where's that school? And I encourage you, get on your phone, say, where's that school? What's the enrollment? What's the admit rate? What are the majors that school offers? And begin to ask those questions, because then once you begin to ask those questions, then you can get into this idea of fit, of where am I going to be? Where can I excel? What place am I going to thrive at, based upon the environment? So I think it's to look at more than just a name. Because you see a lot of names in a lot of different places, but to really understand what is that school, where is that school, and what can that school offer me?
Mm-hmm. And so with that being said, right, it's a daunting task to families, right? Maybe it's your first child, maybe it's not, maybe it's, maybe it's a legacy thing, right? Like I need my kid to get in here. And like you said, when I went to Emory, it was 30%. Now it's down to 10%. How do I get my kid in? So now I might be like, I need some help. Let me call strategic admissions. Let me call strategic admissions to give me some insight on how I can get my child into Emory. So talk about your part as the independent counselor, especially, and then touch on for me after this varsity blues scandal. You know what I mean? Did it become a little tougher for you? Like, did you have to change up? Like, you know what I mean? Because I just like to know about that. I was intrigued by this whole varsity blues scandal. I thought it was crazy, but talk to me about that and how you come into play if a child is trying to get to a specific college, like such as Emory.
So it's a great question. And I make it very clear that I don't call schools on behalf of families, call an Emory and say, oh, I got this great kid, you need to let him in, because I'm technically a hired gun and I don't have the full context of who else from that school group applied, and not everybody can afford an independent consultant. So, part of the professional ethics of being part of NACAC, which is National Association of College Admissions Counselors, IECA, which is the Independent Educational Consultant Association, we don't do that, but I understand that's the perception. I think what we do best in my company is that we help them to navigate the process. We explore options, right? We let them know that college admission success is not going to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, or Emory. It's having, kind of looking at the full range. And I think families come to us, and again, primarily it's been word of mouth, because we are starting a huge marketing campaign for some new initiatives that we're doing. But a lot of it has been families want a second opinion, right? Just like you go to a doctor and he says, this is my diagnosis, what you need to do. Oftentimes you go to a second opinion, or parents need an intermediary between them and their child because they know that they're just going to fight. I love baseball. It's my favorite sport, and my first love. And my son's a very good baseball player, but I had to get him a coach. I had to go get him a pitching coach and a batting coach. And because at some point, me and him was just not, he's better than I was. That's one. Yeah. And two, I want him to have a relationship, not just, coach dad. Anyway, all that said, it's important that independent college consultants, independent college coaches, whatever college planning coach, whatever you want to call yourself, that you are not advertising, I can get your kid into the school and guaranteeing, because you can't. You're not working in those admissions offices. You don't really know what they're looking at on a day-to-day. So me doing that makes me feel good, that I'm able to help families have a second opinion and help to navigate some of the process. The varsity blues scandal, it was tricky. And I said this when it first happened. It's like, look, that dude was not a college admissions consultant or college admissions counselor. He was a crook. So I got nothing to do with him. Right. I do think it was interesting how the rich can do so much to manipulate. They just don't like hearing no. They like controlling everything that they can. And they were willing to go to great lengths to do that. So yes. Have I had very, very affluent clients? Yes. Have they asked me to write an essay for them? Or there are other college consultants writing essays for their kids. You should do the same. And I was like, no, I don't do that. Would you like your money back or not? No, or we can stop now. Right. So yes. Have I been in awkward situations? Of course. Do I think very early on in my career, was I a little bit too, what's the word? Would I give students suggestions on their essays that I probably say, that was probably too much? Sure. I won't even sit here and lie to you that when I'm 33 years old, when I was hungry, that I said, write this, don't write that. But now, varsity blues scandal confirmed for me that I'm doing the right thing for the right reasons. I think people like Tim, be honest with you, wouldn't be rocking with me if he didn't know, that I have good moral integrity. And Tim said that, when we first met. Independent counselors, particularly those who work in New York, get a bad rap for bugging people at these higher ed schools and saying, "Can you help my kid get into school?" And Tim's like, "Yo, you are the bottom of the barrel, right? Independent consultants get a bad rap, but I'm holding my own for him to be rocking me for 2 years now. I think he thinks I'm a good dude."
All right. So that leads me into my next thing. So a kid from Texas down at Morehouse, and a kid from Brooklyn, up at Wesleyan, and what brought you guys together? You know what I mean? Because obviously, like I said, I just want to segue to this incredible project, which is going to dominate this conversation. But I gotta get that background to know, like, how did Tim Fields and Shereem? It's not like, oh, we went to school together. Like, tell me how you guys met and how you guys said, listen, man, we got to do something together.
So we met at a conference in New Orleans in 2013. We had a common friend or, professional colleague who said, hey, he lives in Atlanta. He lives in Atlanta. Hey, what's up? But it was, it was nighttime. He was with his wife. I was ready to just go hang out. Excuse me. But it was good. A black man at a conference that doesn't have a lot of black men. He's working at Emory. I do live in Atlanta at the time. Sure. I'll take your card and I'll call you. We'll hang out. So I called him, we had lunch. It was fine. No biggie. But I also brought a book to him that I'd recently written. And I think he was intrigued that I read a book. It was called Do the Dishes and Other Ways to Make Your Wife Happy. Self-published. I love my wife. Say, hey, man, I'm the English major. I wrote this book. And, real talk, Tim was inspired by it, where he was like, oh, this dude's out here writing books, So he wrote his own book, Lessons I Learned from Drinking. So we started to connect on that, just two independent writers wanting to have another fellow writer. And so again, I think we were just supporting each other's projects from afar. He has his crew, I had my crew. So that was the extent of it. Tim has this thing, hashtag no new friends. He made it clear I wasn't his friend. We were just, professional associates. Okay. All good with me.
I didn't make that clear. That's how you have felt. I ain't never say, oh, you're not my friend. You know what I'm saying? You just was feeling some type of way.
Was I your friend in 2019?
No.
There you go. So 6 years later, so going back and forth.
Did I say no, Shereem, you're not my friend in 2019? Okay. Right.
He was in his feelings. He was in his feelings.
Yeah. Nah, he's saying his feelings. He's staying his feelings. But continue the story.
So we connected through that. And again, it was all love. He actually had a little book tour for his first book down in DC, and I was living here at the time, so I went to go check him. So again, just everybody living their life, trying to salute black man. And then 2020 hit, and when the whole pandemic hit, and then we saw the murder of George Floyd, and the Black at IG movement, where the black kids at private schools are talking about recounting their experiences, their microaggressions against them, sometimes macroaggressions against them. I was really in my feelings about that, and right then and there, I saw this thread of college counseling in their posts, and I said immediately, like, I'm tired of these kids getting undermatched at schools and not feeling empowered by their school counselors. So I said, in my mind, I should write a book about college counseling for black kids. But I also knew that I had a lot of ideas in my life. And if I just say I'm going to do something, I'm probably not going to do it. So I called Tim, kind of not hoping he would pick up, because if I put it out there in the world that we should write a book together, we both written our separate ones. Now let's join. you know, 4 times a day, holding each other accountable to writing chapters, understanding that we have different perspectives on the college admissions process. I wanted it to be good HBCUs versus PWIs. I wanted to make it real, you know, controversial, adversarial, and Tim was very measured. And it was like, nah, we got to make sure it's for the people's, not, you know, let's not just, you know, go in there, you know, guns a-blazing. So we produced a book that we believe is measured, but has a, you know, a few flickers of controversy in there that's very provocative. But most importantly, we wanted to do it for the people, for the resource. We said at the very beginning, we're doing this for our people, not for our peers. There are people in our industry overwhelmingly who've been supportive, but there are a couple of, you know, naysayers who, you know, we won't give our energy to, but we didn't write it for them. We wrote it for the people who are really going through the process as a Black family, who are thinking about the cultural and financial sacrifices that they made. So we've produced something that I'm very proud of. And whether we're in New York as we were on Friday, or in Arkansas as we were on Saturday, or in Dallas as we were on Sunday, it's being well received. And that was the whole point in the first place.
Tim, anything you want to add to that? Was that all accurate?
95% of it was accurate. You know,
What 5% am I missing?
some of it was, conjecture and, what I'm saying, but no, it was good. It was a good story. It was a good story.
So
you should see us when we drinking. So we did a podcast last Sunday called the educational version of Drink Champs. And so 30 minutes in, he starts talking smack about me and everything. So next time we're guests on your show, hint, make sure we have a tequila and wine, and we'll start telling stories about each other.
I'm all for it. So
the book,
The Black Family's Guide to College Admission.
Yes.
And I feel that I need to tell my story as how I found it. So
please.
So I've been doing this, like the same thing in 2020 for me. I started doing this podcast for student athletes. There was nothing going on in sports at the time. College coaches were at home. I felt like, how can I get the word out to kids who really don't know what it takes to be recruited, right? There's so much stuff out there. So why not get college coaches, and why not get these personalities on who have gone through it and get nuggets from college coaches to give to these kids? And, I talked to tons of people. I talked to student athletes who are in school, because everybody thinks like playing sports is such a glorious thing, but there's work that goes into college sports and stuff like that. So, now I'm older. I just turned 50 this year, and
salute.
I'm kind of, disheartened by sports, by the state of grassroots sports at that. You know what I mean? And I think it was become a monetary thing. I don't think that the kids are at the forefront anymore. It's the men behind the kids trying to make a dollar off of our kids. So I am just a small piece to the puzzle who wants to continue to talk about what I feel is right. And if we're going to call them student athletes, then let's make sure that their academics are in order, not how high they jump and not how fast they run. So now I just want to do podcasts that make me feel good, not for any other reason, but things that I want to talk about, things that I'm a lifelong learner. You know what I mean? I want to learn stuff. And now that I'm in this counseling piece, I love to talk about this. And, Shereem's name was given to me. I immediately Googled him. And when I Googled him, the book came up, and it spoke to me. I'm not a go to church every Sunday type of person, but I'm deep rooted in faith, and I believe that things happen for a reason. And right off the back, I work at a charter school here in Long Island, with 73% Hispanic kids and 22% African American. Like where the minorities are the majorities, and that's very, very rare. And as a Black man, I feel I have my own story of why I didn't play Division I basketball, because I didn't know the NCAA eligibility rules, right? But nobody told me about it, and because I wasn't interested in it, my grandmother wasn't interested in it, so I wasn't interested in filling out college applications. So my grandmother never asked about college applications. I put all the blame on my counselor. I blame the counselor because I was 18. Who else am I going to blame it on, right? Mm-hmm. And so this book spoke volumes to me. And, we talked prior to this, man. And I'm telling you guys, if nobody else thanks you for this book, I do, because it's super needed. I learned a ton as being new into the field, and really got into this field because of my heart. You know what I mean? And I learned a lot from this book, man. So again, salute to you two, and a big ups to you guys collaborating. I think sometimes as Black people, we don't collaborate well. We don't work with each other well. You know what I mean? So we kind of want to do it I want credit for the book if the book succeeds, right? Now we both get credit. We both win. I don't think there's enough of being it's enough out there for all of us to eat. So salute to you guys as well, because that's something that we need to be able to show people that, we can do this stuff together. We're better as a team sometimes than we are individually. So salute to you guys for that.
No, thanks a lot. That means a lot. Again, Tim, I'm sorry.
I just mean, we appreciate the kind words, and for all the reasons you mentioned is why we did it. So thank you.
No, no doubt.
Yeah, and it's important that, obviously, we can see that it's inspired you, and we hope that that's what it would do to help you to share information with your students, with your people about whatever you know about. If that's college counseling, if that's about basketball, we all have something to share, and all we want to do is contribute to the canon, right? So our book is served its purpose if it's affected you in a positive way, and we want it to continue to affect other people. And I think it also poured into both of our lives. I think, Tim, I'll speak for you. I think Tim was at a point in his life where he was very comfortable at Emory, and he's good at what he does. I mean, come on, he's being a little bit humble. He was the senior associate dean of admission at arguably one of the most prestigious schools in the country, right? It's a top, quote unquote, 15, 25, whatever you want to say, school in the country. And he's got a big job, but he's comfortable, right? That he's done it for a while. He knows what he's doing. So this book was a challenge to him to step out of that role and to have a wider effect, just to amplify what he does in a way that more people can be reached. And he's into higher education. He has, he's done some doctoral work about HBCU. So this is all feeding what he should have been doing probably 4 years ago, but it all things comes at a time. So he uses the word passion. He's passionate about higher education, college admissions. His mother was the first dean of I question if I want to do this to make money. I question this as a profession. What is clear to me, though, is that it's my purpose. If I really think back on my life and the different college counseling experiences that I've had, or college experience that I've had, different people who've spoken into my life and given me information about schools, I'm a very unique person, but in a very unique position. I've heard all these different tales about it, and then learned to channel that person to a business, but now into a book. So yes, we love the book. We love Black people. We believe that college is not but a conduit to building wealth in this country, and for finding, good relationships. So we're glad that the book is positive affecting you, and we hope that continues to spread around the country, around the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just Googled my name by chance. I like the new little Google thing. You said you Googled it. I was like, Shereem Herndon-Brown, author. I'm like, oh, look at that.
Yeah. So I can definitely see the opposites, right? Like Tim looks like he's very, very laid back, and Shereem, you look like you'll do the talking and don't mind being the face and the voice, like, you know what I mean? And nah, seriously, man, like even like the way you guys are, right? Like we need that balance, right? This looks like a balanced relationship. It really, really does. Like I'm just looking at Tim, like, yeah, Tim's being humble. Like, yeah, Tim won't say nothing. Like, you know what I mean? Like I see that. I'm a talker. Because I'm a talker too, right? And I love people who will just sit there and say, nah, I'm just gonna let Terrell talk. So I get that, you know what I mean? But while I'm talking though, I don't mind saying how great my partner is.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's big too, because right, like, I got this saying, like, I let the street speak. I don't have to say anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like people will tell you how they feel about me. And if the word is good, then the word is good. But I want to talk about the title, because the title is bold. Y'all just put it out there, right? Like, why not just put a book? Why not just have a guide for college admission, right? Because people need to know, right? Like there's, all people aren't affluent of all races. There, you know what I mean? Like there's like, why that? Like, you know what I'm saying? And like, what a title that is. And were you guys nervous? Like, yo, man, if we just make it Black, it might not sell, right? Like, you know what I mean? You can write a book and be passionate about the book and it's from the heart, but we want to put books out there. The more people that it reaches, the better for them and better for us. So I think y'all took a chance on that. Like, like, was there any back and forth? Like, nah, maybe we shouldn't. Like, talk to me about the title, because that's what jumped out at me.
Yeah, so I mean, the title went through several iterations, and me and Shereem can go probably find a document that we had 10 different titles that we had for it. The first one he came up with is HBCUs versus PWIs, and he wanted to make a case that all Black kids could go to HBCUs. And I was like, you didn't go to no HBCU. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not even like possible, given they only make 3% of colleges and universities and all kinds of reasons. And then, I wanted, college admission for Black folks. And he was like, folks, you know what I'm saying? I'm like the people. And so we had these different ideas, but it was true, really, our publisher, Johns Hopkins University Press, the editor came through and he says, I think it should be something similar like the Black Family's Guide to College Admission. And then we was like, that sounds a little dry. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that sounds a little dry. And then, we said it's bold, but we need something more. And so we came up with, a conversation about education, parenting and race. And I was like, how does that, feel? But I think, part of what you're saying is, we wanted to be bold and we wanted to write it for a very specific population. One of the things that Shereem and I all, constantly said, we can't be all things to all people. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to write this book, specifically for Black families and their experiences going through this process, but also with the understanding that there are allies, there are college counselors, there are other populations who work with these populations who want to support them. And so, we said, yes, we're going to write this book, but we also, in writing it, wanted to write it in a way where it wasn't all HBCUs. It was really giving a good preview of all of higher education and the different avenues that, Black people have as they go about approaching higher education. So we were very thoughtful about that. But, one thing that we were very clear is this is who we're writing it for. Mm-hmm. If we say, just another college admission book, it's going to be drowned out into all the other titles with people who have much bigger names than us. We think we're great at what we do, but the reality is, not many people know us. We're known in our little spheres, in, higher education and college counseling bubbles and things of that nature. But, if you just ask any random person, you know who Timothy Fields or Shereem Herndon-Brown is, they don't know. And so we wanted to use this as a platform to get the word out about the importance of college, importance about thinking about the experiences that Black families have. And then, also, just really be this is who we're talking to and be unapologetic about that.
Nah, I love it. I love it. And again, throughout this whole thing, like, I'm going to be giving you guys your flowers. Like, I try to be, seriously, I try to be an avid reader, but, most books you read, right? Like, it's one person's opinion. You know what I mean? You can tell a great story and that's great. What I like is this is about the Black college admission process. So the first thing you think is, okay, you guys are going to just tell us about the admission process, which you did. I love the whole fact that there's Tim's opinion and then there's Shereem's opinion. And it's very, very clear that Shereem and Tim don't always agree on both of them, which I think is great. So like, I got two authors and two different opinions looking at it, as opposed to both of you saying and agreeing on one thing and having it be one way. It doesn't have to be one way. I'm a public school kid. Well, I'm a private school kid. So chances are that people need to hear that. And I think that's one of the other things that I loved about it. You know what I mean? Is that I get to hear the different, I get to read the different outlooks that you guys have on it. Question to both of you. And I'll start with you first, Shereem. Writing the Black Family College book, if you guys weren't so far into your careers already, let's say if you guys were 5 years into your career, do you name it that? And I'll go to you too as well, Tim, after Shereem, because you work at Emory and there's not a ton of minorities there. Like if you're in year 5, then do you write this book now? Would that be the right time? Talk to me, because you guys are so deep into your careers now.
Yeah, I think year 5, we don't have the seasoning to produce something that we've seen over decades, right? Mm-hmm. So now that there's a thread that we've seen and changes that we've seen that we can pull from to create what we have. So it's not, for me, being an independent consultant can be very polarizing, right? Some people just don't mess with them, and some people are like, well, I'm curious. Mm-hmm. So I know I kind of toe that line of some people are going to love me, some people are not going to like me. I'm going to say hate, but some people are not going to like me. Tim, on the other hand, he got the quote unquote street cred. He went to an HBCU. He lives in a black city like Atlanta. He works at a premier university. So to be honest with you, I think his gravitas kind of carries it with some of my energy, right? And 5 years in, he doesn't have that gravitas. And I definitely don't have, I guess I started my company at 32, 31, 32. At 37, I'm probably still not financially stable enough to really go out there on a limb like that. Versus now, I don't think I'm gonna lose money by writing this book. Okay. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't, but I feel much better about it. I've gone through the college process as a parent twice. I got baby girls who are 10. And again, so you asked, Tim's got 2 9-year-olds who are almost 10. Shout out to Alex and Carter, about to be double digits in a few weeks. Something else about it's called the Black Family's Guide, because we're fathers, we're parents. Right. So we're living this personally, right? I'm looking at one twin girl, she says, I'm going to HBCU. I don't know about the rest of you. And my other daughter like, it doesn't matter. It's okay. Oh, kumbaya. And I love her for that. And I love my HBCU. So bottom line is we're living it. We're talking to people about it. And although we have our own opinions, never, ever, ever have we written this book in a bubble. We interviewed people during the pandemic. We did parent roundtables. We talked to counselors. Like, we have opinions, yes, but we don't know it all. So in a year 5, we might have been too arrogant to know that. We might have been like, no, we have to have complete ownership of this. Yeah. It's not that deep. Right. Not that deep.
Yeah, I mean, only thing I would add in year 5, I wouldn't have believed that Black students should go anywhere but an HBCU. Okay. It took over a decade in working at Emory for me to see the benefits of students and the opportunities and resources that come with certain type of institutions and how individualized the process was. So I think just my vantage point of being able to say, yes, I love my historically Black college experience. I wouldn't change my historically Black college experience, but I understand, depending upon that student, where they were, reared at, what resources that family has, what they want out of their college experience, how a predominantly white institution could benefit them. It might be the best place for them. So I have the vantage point of having the time I've served to see it from, both sides. And I think that's one of the things that really helped, guide the book. So, if 5 years into it, I would have been HBCUs versus PWIs. Why PWIs, don't serve our kids as a subtitle or something like that. That probably would have been 5 years in. But now, 20 years in, I could sit on with my in the rocking chair, go back and forth and be like, I can see why they want to go there. I can see why they want to go there. And then, let me tell you some stories about how you need to go about getting there. So, not to say, I'm an OG yet, but, we've taken some hits in our years, and we just wanted to share our perspectives, from our 2 completely different vantage points. You are right. We do not agree much. We agree on a lot, but we also disagree on a lot of things as well.
Nah, and I love that, man. That makes it, to me, that makes it authentic, and it makes it, it makes it organic. One of the most disheartening things that I read, you guys referenced an article about the difference between white families and Black families, how Black families come so late to the table in the admissions process. And I think it was 32%, maybe, like that's what it was in the article, 32 or 38% in the article. And just, it made me think so much, like, how do we change that? And, and like, I think it's one thing at a time. I know at my school, like, I start the kids in 9th grade, but like, I'm more like, and I think this was Shereem's opinion, like, I'm more 8th grade. I'm more like before they get to high school, like, prepare them before they get there so that they're on a track. Like obviously, like, all types of families come from different walks of life, right? Like, you got the parent who's working all the time, right? Because you got to make ends meet. You got the 2-parent homes, you got the single family, like, what I mean? Like, how do we get these families to get to the table? Like, is that just our responsibility? Like, we have to go harder? Like, what do you guys' take on that? Like, how do we get that number to go up?
It's a great question. And again, so if you think that's disheartening, imagine being out on the road and saying this and having written it and people still not buying in. It's I don't know what the root of it is, but for some reason, many Black people, and I'm not going to say everybody, do not want to invest in educational information or educational advice. We think that it's something that can just be handled at the tail end of the high school process and have varying, varying success. So I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying you could probably know more about what is happening and then have more choices if you did it earlier. But that's just hasn't been our calling, excuse me, or what they have felt to do. So how do we get more people involved? I think it has to start at the schools. I'm very, very happy. Most of my clients and my strategic and advice clients are affluent white people in Metro New York, Philadelphia, California. But I've been working with some charter schools doing professional development for their college counseling offices, where I'm helping them to pour into their kids younger to hopefully, the more information they have then, the better the choices will be later. So that makes me feel good before we even started the book that I was doing that. And I want to continue that. So I'm raising my hand for any charter schools who's listening, who wants to hire strategic mission advice as a consultant. But bottom line is we got to start in the schools, because the parents, for whatever reason, don't see the value. And it is what it is. Again, I would love for some parent to be listening to this right now and refute me on it. Like, no, I love my kids, and you can tell me about it. Whatever you want to tell me, I'm willing to hear it. But Tim and I have been on the road. We've been in different cities. And Tim will say, and I don't like it when he said it, he will say, Black people come to this process late. CP time is what Black people do when it comes to college admissions process. And if we could fix it, we would. But, we still learning and trying to do the best we can.
Tim, you want to chime in?
And I think one of the things that's interesting you asked that question, because within the past week we've been busy in a lot of different places, and we received a question that at the core of it is, how do we connect the college admission process to a greater amount of Black families to where they want to engage earlier? And I think we really just have to kind of redefine success. That's one of the key terms: redefine success and what it looks like, and kind of redefine what this process looks like. So we can't just go from the same playbook of, hey, college is going to be the way to limit the wealth gap. You should go here for 4 years, and 4 years you graduate. That you have to make it real. Like, you have Instagram, you have all these different means that students could say, oh, I want to do these other things, that they're very tangible. And so one of the things in our book is we wanted to, have over 80 names of Black college graduates. So as you're talking to these students, as you're telling them this is what college can do, their names in the tech industry, their names in the movie industry, their names in, kind of the entrepreneurship, like, you can give them real names. These are people who went to, college, and this is their success story, so they can see it. Because if you don't make it real, the current students aren't going to see it. You have to be able to make it real. Like, this weekend we were giving a presentation, and we, brought up the fact that, Megan Thee Stallion graduated from Texas Southern, that she had her degree, and she got her degree after her success. This wasn't something that, I happened to go to college and then I got into the game. She was, well established, already won Grammys and was well established. And she went back, as a promise that she made to her family that she would finish. And so that's something that, if these young ladies like, I want to be the IG models and everything else, IG models and all this other type of stuff, Megan Thee Stallion went and got her degree, because she's thinking about the long terms. That yes, in your 20s and 30s, you can try and figure things out. But, one thing that I don't want for me and I don't want for families is to say my best years and my highest earning years were in my 20s and 30s, because we know if we're fortunate, we have a long life. And, if you are fortunate to make it to 50, 60, 70, 80, that you need to have some money and you need to have a job, you need to have a career that's willing to sustain you all those years.
I love it. I love it. I was fortunate enough to go to college on a basketball scholarship. In retrospect, right? Like, it was part of my goal. But not ever having to make a student loan payment, like how important that is to me right now. I think my foundational mission for sending kids to college, and I'd like to get you guys' feedback on this, is go to college and come out with the least amount of debt as possible. How do you guys feel about that? Like, that's kind of, especially like when I look at my target area, like, you know what I mean, that don't come from a lot, I kind of don't, you know, I don't want them to start off life in debt, like, you know what I mean, or like, you know, like something that they can't get out under from later. Like, how do you guys feel about that? Because you talked a little bit about undermatching as part of your reason, Shereem, and you know, so I'm in New York, right? Like, there's a SUNY school who's willing to give a kid an Excelsior scholarship, right? And you know, and all of a sudden they get a scholarship to, you know, pay for the rest of their room and board, but they might be able to go to Brown if they pay $20,000 a year.
Mm.
What do you say to that family when you know that family situation? Like, is that an undermatching thing? And like I said, I love to, you know, I get that what you're saying with undermatching, but you know, is it too much? Like, if I'm thinking 4 years down the line, you're going to come out of here with no student loans, like, you know what I mean? But you can get into Brown, it might be worth it. So I'm just trying to, you know what I mean? I'm gonna get your
Hey,
feedback.
I got you. Hey, Shereem, hold on, watch this. I'm gonna set the alley-oop for you. All right. Where did Tristan Walker go to school?
SUNY Stony Brook.
SUNY Stony Brook. Hey, Shereem, who's Tristan Walker?
The head of the CEO of Walker Products, Bevel, and got bought out by Procter and Gamble, made millions of dollars by being the first black hair grooming company to be bought by a major corporation like that.
So that's when we talk about making it real. Like, you know, like, oh, why am I going to go to SUNY school? You know, I want to go to, you know, Harvard, Yale. You know, Tristan Walker went to, you know, SUNY Stony Brook, and he
got a Stanford MBA, but yes.
Oh, okay.
But he did go to
SUNY
Stony Brook with probably minimal debt. And so when we you can go to school for minimal cost, that is imperative. That is what we are preaching, right? Because we know as adults how much student loans can affect you. We know that people can't buy homes later on. We know banks won't give you credit cards, or excuse me, small business loans. So we want that to not be the goal. Brown is a great school. Cornell, Penn, Dartmouth, Harvard, call them what you want. If your family cannot reasonably make those payments, the return on investment, you'll be working anywhere just to pay that back. And I don't know if it's worth it for the mental health or it's complicated. I get it. And I don't think it's one size fits all, but I will say that cost should be the primary determinant in where kids go to school, because life is long. And those ages 18 to 22 are again, I remember I went to Africa, I went to Nairobi for some, to Kenya and Nairobi and Mombasa and a whole bunch of places when I was a senior in college. And I came back and I tried to pledge before I go into Africa. It didn't happen. So I come back, I'm a second semester senior, and the Omega Psi Phi brothers are like, yo, you trying to get down again? And I'm like, I guess so. Like, yes. You know what I mean? I was yes. But so many people whispering in my ear, ew, you're pledging your senior year? You're this supposed to be having fun. You're supposed to be doing this. And I remember saying to people, Wesleyan is such a small part of my life experience that I will take these 16 weeks right here and do this now so I can hopefully have what I want later. Best decision I ever made. So I say that because college, those 4 years are such a small part of your life that if you're in debt for the next 20, you scratch yourself on if that was the right move or not. So I'm really hoping that families hear this and prioritize the cost of the school. I understand it's complicated. Tim has a great line about, financial aid, and he'll say, it depends. Give me someone with that scenario with Brown and SUNY, a downstate on the table, and let's have a conversation. We'll see what happens.
And I just want to add, the key thing is every situation is different, but I look at it, higher education as an investment. It is investment in just your education. It's an investment in what you want your future career to be. In most instances, obviously, there are different ways that you can go about getting careers and things of that nature. So I just want to put things in perspective. And so if you want to go to a place like Brown, if you want to go to a place like Dartmouth or WashU or a place like this that costs $300,000, and you look at the financial aid package and you say, oh, I can finish in 4 years and I might be in debt $30,000.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell anybody, I'll give you $270,000 if you put $30,000 on the table, they're going to take that every day of the week. Mm-hmm. And so, like Shereem said, we don't want parents to take out Parents Plus loans. Mm-hmm. If the student can't get a loan in their name through the school, then a loan doesn't need to take place. But, there's this idea that a lot of families come that I don't want to pay anything at all for college. And that's just not realistic. Mm-hmm. That, everybody's going to pay for something. Even if you have you say you got a full scholarship, you needed some money when you showed up on that campus.
Yeah.
You needed at least $100 in your pocket. You know what I'm saying? Late at night when y'all need to get some food, you need to have some money from someplace. So it covers a lot, but it doesn't cover everything. And so this idea that, college is going to be completely for free. I don't want to go into debt at all. I just think that's unrealistic, but you have to say what's perspective. So if you tell me a school's going to give me $300,000 and I only got to come up with 10% of that, and then I got my whole life to pay it back at 2%. I just think those things need to be talked through and not just this hard line that I don't want any debt at all, because I just don't think that's a real place.
I love it. So I want to ask this question as well. AP courses versus early college programs. Is there a balance, right? Is there an advantage to say, like I know how much AP courses are. I'm taking AP this, AP that. And I get that in high school. But if you're a junior in high school or you're a senior in high school taking courses on a college campus and a child applies to your school and they don't see AP English on their senior year, but they're taking English 101 at a local college and it's on their transcript, does that balance out in the admissions process?
What I would tell you is it all depends upon where the student wants to go to college. Mm-hmm. That if a student says, I'm okay with going in the SUNY system, then yes, those classes are going to transfer into that college system. They're going to look, rigorous as far as the competitiveness. Now, if that same student says, I want to go to a selective college somewhere in this country that's outside of that state, more than likely those dual enrollment, those college classes aren't going to transfer in the same way. But that student scores a 4 or 5 on AP exams, that will transfer and that'll travel and go all different places. And so this goes into why these conversations need to start early. Mm-hmm. That, if you want to go about dual enrollment system and you want to finish with an associate's degree, then you need to know more than likely you're going to continue on to a state or public school in that area. However, if you have aspirations to go to a more selective school, that associate's degree more than likely is going to dwindle down to 18 to 20 hours at a college or university, and that's it. You're not going to get the full benefit. So, you need to know, like early on, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, what are the aspirational schools that I want to go into? Also, the final thing that I'll say is if, you are looking at the most selective schools in the country and you have a choice and you are at a school that is fortunate enough to have dual enrollment or AP, the selective schools are going to prefer AP all day because they understand what that AP curriculum is. They understand the preparation that it's going to provide. If you are in dual enrollment, they don't know if it's a 2-year college or 4-year college. They don't know what college algebra looks like. They don't know what that psychology looks like. They don't know the curriculum those schools are following. So they're going to be less inclined to accept those courses. So yes, obviously we want students to appropriately challenge themselves in the curriculum that they're taking, that they're comfortable in, that they can be successful in. but also I think it's very important to have an idea of where do you want to go to school in college, because that's going to dictate which track you should be on and how those courses are going to play out, not only in the review of your application, but also when you begin on that college campus.
Nah, I love that. I love that. Shereem, a family contacts you and wants to work with you. What's the first thing you tell that family? Like, right? Because all this has to have some type of foundation, right? Like, what's the first thing that you tell that family? Like, what's the baseline to get to that end result when they're working with you?
So families call, they do a discovery call with, my customer sales associate. Then we do a strategy session with me. And I usually tell them, I want to look at your transcript and understand what kind of courses, strengths, and interests that you have in order to understand what kinds of schools are going to be best for you. And part of that strategy session that I give them for homework is a personality assessment, like a Myers-Briggs for teenagers, in which they, if you answer this question, then get this answer. It depends how you answer the question, you get prompted for different things.
Yep.
And that helps me to see what they could possibly major in and put their career in. But it generates a really, really good report, really rich report.
Mm-hmm.
So between their transcript, the Myers-Briggs piece, their extracurricular activities, I'm able to make some informed suggestions on schools that I think they should, like, and then that also got to talk about geography and other elements, how much they're willing to pay. So, my company has, shameless plug, a program called College List Builder, in which you answer a series of questions, and I will generate a college list for you of 20 schools. That's a great starting block for many families. Then they do their research. I tell them when they visit schools, beyond just the cost, location, major, and career that they're considering, that they need to visit schools and look at the academics, the activities, and the admissions requirements. So I'm able to give them that. So to answer your question, I think it's the transcript, the extracurricular activities, and the personality assessment are really what I need. Some people say, well, what about the SAT scores, ACT scores? Thankfully, we're still in this window of the pandemic that many schools are test optional. So I don't factor that in as much. I know that's not going to last forever, but right now, if they call, that's what I would use.
Okay. And shout out, thank y'all for the fairtest.org.
Yes.
And so like when I say that when I read this book, I learned so much. I truly learned a lot. I just went through a master's program. I went through a college counseling certificate program at UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've read some good books, but this right here hit home for me. It's what's needed where I'm at.
Right.
I'm
You have kids? You have kids, Terrell?
It doesn't hit as much as, but where I'm at, it hits. You know what I mean? And again, like just giving flowers, man. And also what I love about it is every time you guys mention a school,
Tim's idea. That was his
right on
idea.
the side of the page. This school has this many undergraduates, right? Because maybe I don't know comp and state, maybe I don't know all this, but it's right over there. This is where it is. This is how many kids go there. There's a little synopsis about each school that you guys have referenced in the book, right? And it's not in back of the book. You don't have to wait and go look it up in the back of the book. It's right on the page that we're mentioning it. So I thought that was great. All the appendixes are great. Like in all these references. My next question, I'm in New York. SAT versus ACT. Is that a regional thing?
Not anymore. At this point, it's about what the kid feels best about. Once upon a time when I was in high school, yes, the ACT was West Coast, Midwest, and SAT was East Coast. Right now, I oftentimes recommend families to allow a kid to take a diagnostic exam in both and see which one they feel more comfortable with, and then prepare accordingly. So colleges don't care, quote unquote, which one you submit. They just want the highest score possible.
Okay. And where could you find a diagnostic? Like, is there a specific one, or like do you have to find companies that do that? Because I think that's great. Like which one do they?
Yeah. So Khan Academy works very closely with the College Board, and they have a free one. So I think that's always free is always good. A lot of SAT or ACT tutoring companies will try to lure you in by offering you a free or discounted diagnostic test, and then they try to rope you in. And that's not a bad thing. But I would always start with the free stuff. So the Khan Academy one on the College Board is a good thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Gentlemen, listen, I could talk to y'all all night. We all have families. I'm also a husband and a father, like, you know what I mean? And, you know, but like I said, man, when you find people like you guys were sent to me, I truly believe that. I truly believe that you guys were sent to me for information. Like, and it's good to see people who look like me and who I feel like share my same passion. You know what I mean? And so, but we're gonna wrap this up, and I want to get a couple quick hitters, and then I want to get back to, I need an official top 5 from the both of you. I gotta get this locked down. I gotta hear the top 5.
I got you.
So my first quick hitter is, if you can name 5 books besides, including the Black colleges, you know, Guide to Family Guide to College Admission, what other books would you recommend that families get their hands on to help them with this process?
Shereem?
I love a book by a woman named Robin Mamlett. It's called College Admission. I think it actually gives a good one. It's a little dated now. It might be 2015, but you can see there's another edition of it. I think Robin Mamlett wrote a good book that I highly recommend. And there's also the Ultimate Scholarship book.
A great one. And you know, what was Rick and Brennan's book, Shereem?
The Truth About College Admissions for Families, or Families in College Admissions Process.
Okay.
That's a good one. All right, that's it. Or no, we're doing top 5 now. I had to scribble mine out real quick.
You scribbled yours out. You scribbled yours out.
I'll scribble mine out.
I need a Shereem Herndon-Brown top 5, and then I need a Tim Fields top 5 right now.
I'm gonna surprise you with one of them. And is it by who we listen to the most, or do we just think it's just better than everybody else?
It's your top 5.
It's my world. It's my world.
Your world, and it doesn't have to be in order. This is my top 5. You don't have to rank.
Understood. So because I said Big Daddy Kane at the start, I'm gonna keep that because I fell in love with hip hop through Long Live the King.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with my Virgo brother Nasir Jones. I'm gonna go with my Brooklyn's finest Sean Carter. I'm gonna go with the AT alien Andre Benjamin. The 5th one I'm struggling with a little bit, but I will go with Mr. Tariq Trotter, otherwise known as Black Thought.
Okay. Besides Kane, I love how you went with the governments of your other.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
The government's being the government.
With the government. So if we don't know who Nasir Jones is, that's Nas. Like, he went with the governments on him.
Nas J, Andre 3000.
Andre Benjamin. Yes, indeed, boy. Woo! He went with the government names. I love it. I love it. Tim, top 5.
Hey, so here we go. I got to just set the criteria. I am big on longevity. I am big on, you know, you expanding your career over a period of time. I understand that there are classics, but I'm not a splash in the pan. I'm talking about, you know, people who have, you know, 10 years in the game. They got 10 years under their belt that they could say they was in it. So obviously we're going to give it up to Jay. You know, Sean Carter's going to be on the list. Then, you know, I'm going to, you know, go with Drake. You know what I'm saying? Say what you want. He keeps putting up numbers. Then I'm gonna go to Andre Benjamin. You know, Outkast. Shout out to them. Then of course, you know, Scarface. You know what I'm saying? He continues to put out hits even to this day. And then my last one. Man, I just had it. as far as a longevity, and this is my bias.
I know what he gonna say.
It's gonna be Bun B.
I knew he
You know
gonna
what I'm
say
saying?
that.
I heard Pocket Full of Stones in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? People still know who Bun B is now in 2023. R.I.P. Pimp C.
I love it. Texas boy right there. That's
What
a
you know about them Texas boys?
That's a true Texas boy right there. I can't even listen. I can't even be mad at it. That's a Texas boy. He said Bun B. Okay. I love it. I love it, man. You guys are super funny, man. Super funny, man. I love it. I love you guys. I love you guys' energy. It allows me to, to continue to talk to you guys, man. The last question that I ask every guest, Tim, I'm going to throw it to you first. When it's all said and done, how does Tim Fields want to be remembered?
So it's funny. I never shared this with. Well, I shared for a little bit. I got a book of poems that I've written, over my lifetime. But when I was in the 12th grade, I had to write an essay to try and get a scholarship, the Bessie Coleman scholarship for American Airlines. She was the first African American woman to fly, and in that scholarship, at the end, I wrote a poem. And the final line is, at the end of the day, I want somebody to say, Tim, the difference was you. So what that difference is, I don't know. But as you talk about the book touched you, as I think about my work in higher education. If somebody said, hey, Tim, you helped us get into this college or university, hey, you helped me out in this way. If when my time is done, if just one person says, hey, Tim, you made the difference in my life in this way, whether it be my wife, my children, or a complete stranger, I would say that I lived a good life.
Love it. I love it.
I'll keep it. So and this is what I struggle with. So welcome to my world. I'm sitting on your couch now. There's the personal side and there's the professional side, right? Instagram versus LinkedIn. The professional side, I'll lean on, learn from Herman Dreer, who wrote the first history book on Omega Psi Fraternity Incorporated, which says teacher, writer, author, lecturer, is what he put. That was his bio tagline. I've kind of lived by that, teacher, writer, author, lecturer. I was a teacher in my 20s, wrote my first book in my 30s. I'm an author in my 40s. And as I approach 50,
best-selling author. As
I'm approaching 15, 18 months from now, be great to be on a speaking tour and get somebody to pay me to talk. Personally, though, I'm very proud to be a husband. I'm very proud to be a father. And I hope that one day my children share my name with their children and people that they know as someone who was not just influential in their life, but critical, essential, like they miss me a lot. Yeah. So I'll say that: husband, father, and good dude.
Nah, I appreciate you guys, man. Listen, this is one of the best, and I'm not just saying that just to say it, but I feel like we have so much in common, man. And it's
the synergy is good, man. That's right. We're gonna shout you out now. You're doing big things.
Appreciate it. So much more to unpack with you guys in the future, and I'm so glad that you guys are willing to share with me, and I really appreciate you guys. My wife, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, my wife ain't that happy with y'all, because every time I read a page in a book, I send her a link to a book that you guys are recommended in your book. And she's so tired of Amazon coming and dropping off books for me. Look, man, that's how I learn. That's how I learn. If I want to see what they're talking about, because everything that they're talking about is talking to me. And because I got a chance to talk to you guys, I'm like, they're speaking to me. They said this is a good book. I'm going to get the book. This book is going to help me, man. So I thank you guys. I thank you guys for that. And I appreciate y'all so much for taking time out y'all busy schedule to chop it up with me about this subject that means so much to the three of us.
Hey, Terrell, we can't let you get off without telling you, man, appreciate you having this. And we've done a lot of these. As we since September, we've hopped on a lot of podcasts. We've had to do some interviews, but the energy and the passion that you bring to this is, we're here for you, man. So, hey, you keep that energy. And just know you always got some fans with us too.
Appreciate you.
Salute.
Appreciate you. Gentlemen, y'all know we got work to do, and we will
It is.
be in touch. Thank y'all so much for coming on. Appreciate you.
Appreciate
All right.
you, man.
Yes, sir.
Later.